the swelling and pinching of the structures.
Okay. So, is there any relation to the competent and incompetent beds regarding this?
Yes, pinch and swell structures are generally formed in incompetent layers because these layers generally do not flow, but they got deformed due to the different deformation uh, forces that act on them.
Okay. And how they are different from the Boudinot structure?
So Boudinot structure are generally, so I'm not sure exactly what is the difference, but if you allow, then I might make a guess on this
Sure,
one.
sure, sure.
So Boudinot structures are they are also incompatible in nature. Incompetent in nature, but these are generally seem to form in breaks, like they have different gaps in between each and every body niche. And generally, pinch and swell structures don't seem to have a gap. They just seem to have a wavy nature because of the pinching and swelling. In my
So,
idea, I think this is.
okay. So, what are shear sense indicators? Can you name certain shear sense indicator that you might have come across in the field or during your course study?
Yes, sir. There are several shear sense indicators include, sir, some porphyroclasts or mica porphyroclasts. Mica fishes are there. These are seem to be shearing, or they get um like because of shearing effect. These tend to rotate in a particular direction, which is aligned towards the shearing. So these indicate the nature of the shearing, and thus give the direction of the shearing.
Okay. So, have you done stereographic plotting?
Yes, sir.
And what we generally do in stereographic plots, or why we plot structural features in stereographic projections?
Sir, the features that we see in a field or in a live area, so these are generally three-dimensional features. Now,
Yes.
in order to visualize these features, it would be much easier for us to understand in a two-dimensional plane. Now, the stereographic projections help us understand the different structural features of fabrics in a two-dimensional plane, where we plot the dip, strike, and all these features in a particular plane all together for all the different areas that we want to study about, and thus would give us a very brief idea or in a very easy understandable nature, so that we can understand it much better in a two-dimensional plane.
So, if they ask you to plot upright fold in the stereographic plot, will you able to
Yes,
plot
sir.
that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you plot that, and you can send the screenshot later on, or because generally, they can ask you to go to the board and do this.
No, I think you
So
can
Yes,
be
sir.
ready with
you
this.
you can show it. Probably you can just draw it and then show it in front of the screen.
Yes, yes,
Should be
that you
visible
can
to
do.
Okay,
us.
sir.
Yeah.
Sir, if you can see it, what is it? So here, sir, this is the axial plane.
Mm-hmm.
These are the fold axes that I have marked in the stereographic projection. So this shows the upright fold.
Okay. And if you have to show upright plunging,
Okay, sir. So this is the upright plunging fold.
okay,
This is
yeah,
the fold axis. This is the axial plane. This is the fold axis.
okay, that's good. Yes. Sir,
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So good. Have you come across what kind of rocks have you come across during your dissertation field, if you have gone to?
So sorry, I didn't get you, sir.
I said, what kind of rocks uh, you have come across when you were in the field during your dissertation or any field trip? Have you gone through any field trip in your coursework?
Yes, sir. I have gone to field trips, mostly during my dissertation time and during my PhD work that I have gone through several field works. Most of
Mhm.
my field works are like limited to the northern Shillong plateau or the Guwahati area. So the different types of rock types that are present in the northern Shillong plateau are the quartzo-feldspathic gneiss or the QFG. Now these rocks demarcate the basement gneissic complex of the Shillong plateau. Along with quartzo-feldspathic gneiss, I encountered various amphibolite layers that are present in a way of or layers or like not like a huge body, a massive body, just as layers along with the quartzo-feldspathic gneiss. Then I encountered several granitic bodies or granitoids and several small scale pegmatitic veins I encountered during my field trips.
Okay. So you said about pegmatites.
Yes, sir.
How pegmatites forms and why a study of pegmatites is very important for RE exploration.
So pegmatites are granitic in composition. You can say that are these have. I'm not sure about the genesis of pegmatites, but these show felsic nature, and then pegmatites don't have much of biotites and hornblends in them. They are missing them. Now, pegmatites are important for RE mineralization is because these are late stage felsic melts. Like they occur due to partial melting of mafic and felsic mineral rocks or melts. So as we know that rare earth elements are incompatible in nature because of their ionic sizes, so they tend to accompany the the melt portion of the fluid, and hence generally we see that the pegmatites host these REE minerals, and which can be a boost for exploration of these RE minerals. Like they generally tend to hold the mineralization of REs in them. So I think this is because they are important for us.
Okay. How many RE elements are there in our periodic table?
So RE period elements total they are from atomic number 57 to 71. All these are RE minerals. So there are like 14 to 16 RE minerals present in a periodic table.
Can you name some of them?
Yes, sir. So yttrium is there. Then, sir, samarium is there. And, sir, lanthanum is there. So lutetium is there.
Good.
Like this.
Okay. And how RE is important for any nation, for any country, especially? In which areas REs find their application? Do you know something?
Yes, sir. So REs are generally they are getting the importance right now because RE tends to be like host for some. These are minerals which are important for countries' development. Like they are hosting they are important because mm, different fields they are being used on, like in aircrafts and in nuclear studies also they are being used upon. So right now RE is a hot topic for uh, like
Yes.
study. That's why.
In fact,
And
in,
so mineralization of RE is generally seen in pegmatites, as I have told. Then, sir, these are found in beach placer deposits. They are found in inland deposits. And,
Ari.
sir, some hydrothermal fluids also. Yes, sir.
Okay, Lawrence sir, you can start. I can come back once again if you want to continue here.
Okay. Good morning, Ashish.
Good morning, sir.
Can you tell me what is the difference between magnetic inclination and magnetic declination?
Sir, I forgot. I forgot about the magnetic inclination. But, sir, magnetic declination is the angle made by the magnetic north and the actual north by the on the Earth's axis, sir.
What is actual north?
Sir, it is the actual sir, uh, the Earth rotates on an axis,
Mhm.
and that is the actual north, sir. So because of the the magnetic on uh, north is shown by the compass, but it is a bit different from the actual north, sir.
Okay, actual north is marked by the rotational axis, the northern rotational,
Yes,
which
sir.
points to the pole star. So it's
Yes, sir.
actually called geographic north. Okay,
Geographic
not
north. Yes,
actual
sorry,
north.
sir.
Okay,
Yes,
okay. So you know declination. So if
yes, sir.
you, and you also said, like, if we go in the field, we take Brunton compass and we measure the strike direction.
Yes, sir.
It will be not the true north. It will be the magnetic north. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know what is, if let's say you're in India, you're doing field work, how much of a problem is it? Magnetic. You would have done field work also. So, how much of a problem is this magnetic declination?
So magnetic declination generally creates a small difference in the actual reading that we have to find, that we
Is it
want to find.
always small?
Sorry,
Sometimes
sir.
it's not always small. It depends on location. Sometimes it can be huge also. Okay. Sometimes it can show you magnetic. It can show you very variable directions. Okay, especially if you go to the
Yes,
North
sir.
Pole. Do you know what is
Yes, sir.
sort of like average declination value when you're doing field work in India?
So I'm not sure, sir.
Okay, no problem. Uh, let's say you have a Brunton compass with you. Okay, how will
Yes,
you
sir.
measure dip and strike of a plane with that Brunton compass?
Okay, sir. First of all, for measuring the dip, or for so first of all, we have to measure the strike of a plane. So first, I will take the Brunton. I will like align on the surface of the put the Brunton, the flat surface of the Brunton on the surface. I will like align it such that sometimes it's quite difficult to generally find the strike. So first of all, people generally find the dip of this surface. Now for measuring the dip of the surface, we have to align the Brunton, the flat surface of the Brunton on the surface, and then we have to like adjust the rotatory thing. I forgot its name. It's on the back side of the Brunton. We have to align it with the zero of the clino. Now we keep the Brunton on the surface. We adjust the clino, which is prefixed at zero. We may align the uh, that rotary thing such that the watermark which is present on the Brunton, it comes at the center. Now when it comes at the center, it will mark that the clino is present in a horizontal. So we remove that, or before removing, we mark the horizontal or the dip direction on the surface, and
How did you
perpendicular to
how did you
that
get the
we.
dip direction? So you said, like, with the message, if when it gets horizontal
Yes, sir.
in that plane, so it will give you dip amount. But how do you find in
Yeah,
which
that will
dip
give.
direction?
So if I put it horizontal from that portion,
Hmm.
so from that portion, it will give me the dip direction,
Hmm.
and perpendicular to that, I will get the strike direction.
Okay. Uh, have you heard about Odo Harkin effect?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
Sir, Odo Harkin effect explains the abundance of elements uh, in the universe, as we can say. Like certain elements are present in much more abundance than the other elements. So it shows the abundance of elements, sir.
Is there anything that you want to comment on the abundance? Is there any pattern that you see in the abundance?
So generally we see a zigzag pattern on the abundance of the elements.
Okay. So yeah, that's
Yes,
the
sir.
zigzag pattern in the Odo-Harkin effect. It's not just the abundance part. Okay.
Okay,
So
sir.
that zigzag
Yes, sir.
pattern. In that zigzag pattern, is it somehow related to atomic number?
So I forgot about that, but I think it was like the odd numbers are much more abundant than the even numbers, sir. I forgot about that. I have to check again,
It's
sir.
It's the
other way
inverse
around.
of that.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
sir.
Yes.
even numbers are more abundant than odd numbers. Okay.
Okay, sir. Yes,
Uh,
sir.
let's say you're doing geochemical analysis. Okay. We don't
Yes, sir.
see usually if we read research papers, we see analysis. We don't see this Odo-Harkin effect in that case. Why is that the case?
No, sir. I'm not sure about that, sir.
So, okay, let me rephrase this question. How can you remove that Odo-Harkin effect in your, if you want to generate plots? Is there a way you can remove that Odo-Harkin effect?
No, sir. I'm not sure, sir.
Have you heard about normalization of data?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, especially if you're acquiring geochemical data. What do you mean by it?
So normalization generally means like taking a material or a sample according to which we will all like normalize the values of the different abundance of elements according to that, sir. This generally set as normalization.
Okay, how, let's say if you're analyzing, we are doing geochemical analysis of igneous rocks,
Yes, sir.
how will you normalize the data in that case?
So for igneous rocks, the chondrites are taken as a normalization factor for normalization in
Difference.
igneous rocks.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, that's good. Uh, what is the pH of neutral water?
The pH of neutral water is 7.
Why is it 7?
So because it stands in between the acid and basic line, because before below or below 7, the acidic nature starts to gain, and
That's what
below
neutral
or
means. I'm
above.
asking what is the reason behind
Yes,
that?
sir.
That is what like this neutral will mean. So on one side it will be acidic, on one side it will be basic.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So why where does that number 7 come from?
No, sir, I'm not sure about that, sir.
Okay. Have you heard about dissociation constant?
No, sir.
Okay.
I add to this.
Yes.
Like you must have heard of H2O breaking into H plus and OH minus.
Yes, sir.
This is what dissociation, Lawrence, are mean to be.
Yes, sir. So I was
Okay.
not
So now can you
aware.
add something to it? How we calculate pH?
So pH is generally logarithm of H plus ions
Okay. It is minus of
minus of log
logarithm
H
of.
plus.
Okay. So in that context, can you add to the answer of Lawrence's questions?
So I'm not confident enough to answer this question, sir.
Okay.
Okay, Lawrence, sir.
Yes. Which is the most abundant element in the universe?
So hydrogen.
Hydrogen. So at the start of the Big Bang, most of the universe was hydrogen only.
Yes, sir.
How do we get elements that you see are present on Earth? Hydrogen is not very abundant. Okay. So
Yes, sir.
where did all other elements in the universe come from?
So mainly the process of fusion came place in this. Because of fusion, different elements started to combine. Like the hydrogen combined to form helium, then helium and hydrogen, lithium, beryllium. So such a cycle came. Because of that, we started to gain higher atomic number elements.
Okay.
So this is such.
But how will you get like very high atomic number ones? Then those are the ones which undergo fission. Okay. So let's say
Yes, sir.
you were talking about abundance of elements. There is a concept called binding energy. So iron has the maximum binding energy. So it's not.
Yes, sir.
How do you get elements which are heavier than iron? So for example, uranium is there on Earth. How will you get it?
I'm not sure about that, sir.
Okay, no problem. Have you heard about convolute bedding?
Convolute bedding. Yes, sir.
Can you please
Convolute bedding.
explain what it is?
Mm, so I think I am not sure, but I would like to take a try,
Yeah,
sir.
sure.
So convolute bedding generally occurs because of like uh, mud and like sandstone type of nature or different composition uh, grains because of that, and there is a inseeping of the muddy portion on the harder rock below. So
Mhm.
because of that, convolute bedding I think forms.
Can you say like what type of structure is it?
So I think it's penny-contemporaneous.
Yes, yeah, I got your point. Uh, what is the difference between a point bar? Okay, so listen carefully. A
Yes, sir.
point bar, a mid-channel bar, and a mouth bar.
Point bar, channel bar. So, so I can exactly define these three terms, sir.
Yes, you define what they are.
So, point bar occurs within a river or a fluvial environment. Then some mouth bar, I think it occurs towards the deltaic environment or the mouth of the fluvial channel where fluvial and delta environments meet.
Mhm.
So the mid bar, sir, I'm not sure about that, sir.
Do point bars do they occur in all type of fluvial environments, or is there any specific fluvial environment where they occur?
So yeah, where so they generally tend to occur where there's a huge transportation of sediments. They tend to occur in these fluvial.
Are they do they occur in braided systems or meandering systems? That is what I'm trying to ask.
So they occur in braided systems, sir.
Are you sure? Point bar I'm
Yes, sir.
asking. Take a look at it again, okay, after the interview.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Prakash sir? Then maybe I can take on
Ye-
later.
Yes, yes, I have certain questions. Uh, as the area which you are working in during your dissertation, you must
Yes,
have
sir.
come across amphibolite phases or amphibolite kind of metamorphism.
Yes, sir.
Can you name? Can you say when this phases comes at what temperature, pressure in normal conditions, and uh, and the mineral associated with amphibolite phases?
So amphibolite phases generally start from 500 to 600-degree temperature and pressure. So I'm not sure about the pressure. So just like
It's a low
five.
grade, mid grade, high grade. If in this term you have to explain
So
them.
it is a mid-grade phases, metamorphic
So,
phases.
can you name the phases according to the grading, lower to higher? I'm asking.
Yes, so zeolite phases. These are lower phases. Zeolite, prehnite, pumpelite. Then sir, green seas phases, amphibolite phases. Then sir, granulite phases is the higher temperature phases, and eclogite phases and blue cis phases. Sorry, blue cis phases is the higher pressure, and then eclogite phases comes for highest pressure phases.
Good. So, what kind of minerals generally you find in amphibolite phases?
So in amphibolite phases, we tend to find the biotites and the pyroxenes are found in amphibolite phases.
And which amphibole is characteristic of amphibolite phases?
I think hornblende.
Okay. Do read about it and do
Okay,
read
sir.
a bit of mineralogy of it also.
Okay,
So,
sir.
there is a Goldsmith rule. Have you heard of it?
So I have heard about it, sir.
Any idea? Any few points about it that you can add?
So right now I don't tend to remember it, sir.
Okay, okay. So, do you know? A graphic texture which is very prominent in pegmatites.
Graphic texture, yes, sir.
What is that?
So graphic texture generally forms due to eutectic crystallization at the eutectic point, and so it shows a crisscross type nature of the minerals. So I'm not sure
Okay.
about the mineralogy on that, sir.
Okay. What is X solution?
So X solution, let me see. So X solution is actually the separation of two uh, like incompatible fluids. So it forms because of that in a solid solution series, because of a certain temperature pressure where they don't seem to mix together. So there forms like a sequence above after which these fluids separate to from one another. So I think that's X solution.
Okay. Okay. You mean to say that at certain temperature and pressure, they remain soluble, and after
Yes,
certain
sir.
point, they become insoluble to each other.
Insoluble. Yes, sir.
They separate out from the melt.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Name certain ores of uranium and thorium.
So uranium certain ores are the most common uranium ore is uraninite, or we also name it as
Ashish,
pitchblende.
you don't need to write on the notes. Just keep eye contact
Okay,
Yes,
with
sir.
me.
you see
Okay.
to us. Yes,
Yes, sir.
because when you go to the board, then you can do that.
Okay, sir.
You
Otherwise,
can
you will not have
explain
that
and write
luxury
the
of writing
formulas.
notes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Uranium,
So
sir. Common uranium minerals have uraninite, pitchblende, and sir, coffinite is there. Sir, thorianite is sir present as a ore of thorium.
what is the atomic number of uranium?
So atomic number of uranium, it's 92, sir.
So in which block it lies? B, S block, P block, D block. Which block it does it lie?
So F block.
Uranium, F block. So why we call it F block?
So
What do you
because
mean by F?
sir, these names are given based on the um, I forgot how that name. So the
Okay.
last atom of the last electron lies on the F block of the in uranium. So that's why I think they are named as F block elements.
Okay. Oh, you have to read a bit.
Yes,
Do you
sir.
know Aufbau principle?
Yes, sir.
What does it say?
So, according to Aufbau principle, sir, the electronic configuration of elements is distributed in for SP, D, and F configuration. And like, sir, if I could show you in writing, sir.
Okay. You can do that in the actual interview.
Yes, sir.
Basically, it is arranged in the order of energy. Which orbital will be filled first?
Yes, sir.
No, it's the order. Okay. So you said in India, at which locations do you find uranium mineralization? Can you name certain places and the formations?
Yes, sir. Sir, in my locality, sir, uranium mineralization is seen in some Mahadik sediments, Mahadik
Okay.
sandstone, in Sir Shillong Plateau. The locations are Sir Domesiat and Wakin. So here uranium mineralization is seen. Then towards Sir Singhung Shear Zone, also Jaduguta from location is there. There vein type deposits of uranium are seen. Then
Okay.
in Kadapa, sir, the northern Kadapa, Chitrial place is there, sir.
Okay.
And there, sir, unconformity type deformation related deposits of uranium are seen. Towards southern Kadapa basin, we see Tumalakelle formation
Tummalapalli, yes.
where dolomite hosted carbonaceous uh, hosted uranium deposits are seen. In Bhima Basin, we also see vein type deposition of uranium
Where is
mineralization.
Bhima Basin?
So Bhima Basin is situated west of Kadapa Basin, sir. So it lies in Karnataka
Okay.
state.
So you said that majority of the uranium mineralization occur in Proterozoic or Phanerozoic in India, especially.
It's a Proterozoic, sir.
What is the timeline of Proterozoic?
So
Means
that
age-wise.
Proterozoic starts from 2500 million years to uh, 541 million years.
Okay, good. So, and do you know something about placer deposits of thorium generally in India?
So placer deposits are of thorium are generally seen in the west and southern coast of India.
Mhm.
These are mainly beach placer derived, mainly like these account for majority of the RE uh, mineralization that we see or RE deposits for India, sir.
So, how placer deposits form? What is the
So,
mechanism of this?
yes, sir. Placer deposits generally form due to the wave action of the oceans, also because of the fluvial nature, like from the host rock, because of fluvial activity and water activity, these thorium deposits or thorium ores get leached out and they tend to accumulate in certain places. So
Why they
this is how.
accumulate at certain places? Why they tend to accumulate at certain places?
So because they tend to get stable in that area or that where the effect of fluvial or oceanic water is less.
Is there any concept of density, higher density, lower density? Can you bring that concept? Because they concentrate at certain places because of some characteristic property. Placer deposits. Okay, do read about this. You know,
Okay, sir.
in igneous structures, have you come across the term called phacolith?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you draw the diagram of phacolith and explain it? You can explain while drawing the diagram as well.
Yes, sir. So phacolites are igneous like bodies, uh, which are generally seen in a folded nature, where towards the hinge portion, magma tends to accumulate in the feature.
So, are they discordant or concordant bodies?
Say they're concordant bodies, sir.
Can you name certain
Because
discordant bodies?
so batholith is one discordant body, sir.
Name few more.
So I don't remember right now, sir.
What about
There are
dikes?
many.
Just I
Yes,
don't,
sir.
are they concordant,
So,
discordant?
so dikes
Yes.
are discordant, sir.
Think of like other
Okay.
igneous accumulations. What about lopalith? What about
So
that?
locolith, lapolith, these are concordant. Sil is concordant.
How are they different from phacolith?
So phacolith is generally because of the folding nature, where they tend to accumulate on the hinge portion of the form, whereas localith and lapolith don't need to be in a folded terrain. They just accumulate because of the uh, upcoming of the fluid or the magma on a concordant nature, sir.
Okay, last question from my side,
Yes, sir.
Ashish. Have you read about UNFC classification?
Yes, sir.
Can you shed some light on it?
So UNFC classification, or United Nations Framework Classification for Mineral Resources, it is generally a three-dimensional diagram which shows the feasibility, economic, and geological aspect of any mineral reserve, through which we can assimilate the importance or the economic viability of a mineral deposit. Now, generally, sir, the three-dimensional axis is seen along three axes, where the three axes are defined as geological study, feasibility studies, and economic viability. Sir, similarly for like once when we go to a virgin terrain, the first thing that we see is the geological aspect of any uh, area. Like if mineral has to be formed or mineral deposit has to be formed, there needs to be certain features which would indicate us that this area consists of mineral deposit. Like for geological investigations to occur in these areas, we first need
Just
to.
okay,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Let me stop you here because you are going in a different direction altogether.
Okay, sir.
Basically, you need to explain the three axes
Okay,
and
sir.
the degree of confidence into it. Okay, so do read about it.
Okay, sir.
And Lawrence, sir, if you want to continue, you can do,
Yes, I have just
or
like two
we can
final
conclude
questions.
the.
Yeah,
Okay,
just two final questions. Have you heard about silica saturations in saturation in rocks?
Silica saturation in rocks. So I have heard, but I'm not sure. Like I would be able to
So
define it,
silica
sir.
saturation, alumina saturation. You have not heard about these?
So I've heard, but I'm
under
not confident enough
saturation,
to
Okay.
say.
under saturation like this. Can you guess now? Under saturation,
Under
super
saturation of,
saturation in this
yeah.
figure.
Yes, sir. Like certain rocks contains higher amount of silica than other minerals. So these are termed as supersaturation. And so undersaturation means the say, amount of silica is less than 45% of the total rock mineral in the rock. So like
No,
this.
that's mafic, ultramafic you're telling. Felsic difference. Saturation is a different. It is relative
Yes, sir.
concept. Okay. Same with alumina. So please read about these. Now I was going to ask
Okay,
you
sir.
about, do you know difference between peralkaline and let's say alumina, meta-aluminous, subaluminous rocks? No? Okay. The final question, please, very quickly. Okay, don't take too much time. Draw cross section of Himalaya on the notes and please show it to me, to us.
So Himalaya.
Yes. So just major tectonic units you have to draw. It does not have to be neat, so that you can explain it to someone. What those major, for example, thrusts are. What are the major units?
Sir, according to my knowledge, sir, there are major three
Can you
trusts.
show the diagram?
Yes, sir.
Just okay.
So
Now
major, there
explain.
are three trusts. So the first one that occurs towards the northern portion is the
Is this first of
Himalayan
all?
Central Thrust.
Do you remember what question I asked?
So the cross section of the Himalaya. So I'm
What
not
are
sure about that. So I
no
just
no no. First, what are you showing me on the map? Are you showing me a map or a cross section?
so I'm just showing you the thrusts for
You
from
have
north
drawn
to
the north
south.
arrow also over there. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So is that a map or a cross section that you're showing? To me it looks like a map. Okay. So first you
Yes, sir.
should know
It's
the
sort of a
difference
map, sir.
between a cross section and a map. Can you draw a cross section now? Are you not?
So So I think this is what we want. Oh, sorry.
Yes, so this is much better, okay, than previous one. At
Yes,
least
sir.
you should not draw something else if it is being asked. Correct and wrong is different, but you should know the difference
Okay,
between
sir.
cross section and map. Okay, all
Okay,
right.
sir.
Okay, that's all from our side. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, Ashish, we'll call you back for the feedback. Let us discuss among ourselves about your interview. Till then, you self-analyze yourself.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So now
Okay, sir.
only we'll call you
Okay.
back.
Thank you. You
Okay,
can,
so you can leave the call and we can text you after a while. Now only, sir, right? Or later?
yeah. Sure. No,
Right
right
now.
now.
Okay, so after a while, we'll just text you and then you can join again the call. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.